Hello, everybody. I'm Liam Knight, AITT's Managing Director and also ABA representative. Welcome to this technical update session where we'll be exploring the recent changes to the ABA workplace transport groupings. I'm joined today by Jules Cook, AITT Technical Manager, Peter Williams, AITT Technical Coordinator, and Andy Cartwright, AITT's Vice Chairman and ABA representative. As many of you may know, the ABA has recently announced important updates to the workplace transport groupings categories, which will come into effect on the 19th of January 2026. These changes are designed to bring greater clarity, consistency, and alignment with modern equipment and workplace demands. Today's session is more than just technical updates. It's about ensuring that operators, employers, and training providers are fully prepared for the transition. We'll look at the key changes, including new categories such as E0 for low-level order pickers and SP1 for vertical stock pickers, as well as revisions to existing groups like reach trucks, tow tractors, and multi-directional equipment. Most importantly, we'll highlight the role of specific and familiarization training in maintaining safety and competence across diverse workplace environments. These updates reflect not only advances in technology, but also our shared responsibility to keep training relevant, compliant, and effective. Thank you for taking the time to join us. Your commitment to staying informed is what drives the industry forward, and we hope this session gives you clarity and confidence to navigate these changes successfully. I'll now hand over to Jules Cook, who will lead you through the session.
So thank you, Liam. The first thing that we're going to look at is changes to course lengths post the 19th of January. So the following changes scheduled for the implementation on the 19th of January. We're going to have a look at the impact on course durations across the categories. So to clarify, all existing category lengths will remain untouched. However, if a category type transitions into a new category, it will adopt the course length associated with the new category. So, for example, the B4 will be reclassified under the B1 category. So it will now follow the B1 standard duration, which is a 5-day course. Similarly, the D3 will be recategorized under the D1 and will follow the standard duration of the D1 course, which again is a 5-day course. So that brings us nicely onto the new conversion chart, which will be released prior to the 19th of January, which will be outlining the permissible conversions aligned with the new updated structure. As outlined in the conversion matrix, a new skills mapping will be released also prior to the 19th of January, which will provide clear guidance on how existing qualifications correspond with the revised categories. We do appreciate your patience in waiting for the skills mapping alignment to come out, as we are aware that you will all want to have a look at how that naturally affects your teaching qualifications. This brings us on to the new conversion chart, which will be released prior to the 19th of January, outlining the permissible conversions aligned with the new updated structure. With the upcoming category changes, instructors holding relevant qualifications will naturally be wanting to review their skills alignment with the new qualifications. As outlined in the conversion matrix, the new skills mapping chart will be released again prior to the 19th of January, which will provide clear guidance on how existing qualifications correspond to the revised categorizations. We really appreciate your patience and we'll share the updated chart as soon as it becomes available. So in light of the category restructuring, which will include removal, creation and reclassification of height ranges and boom lengths, AITT will require formal verification that instructors pose the appropriate certificate qualification for each category that they now intend to deliver training in. Where the categories have been split, instructors must provide evidence of certification on the specific machine type from the original classification. So, for example, if an instructor currently has an A2 certificate and are looking to transition to the E0, they must demonstrate that their training was conducted on a low-level order picker, assuring alignment with the new categorisation definition. In terms of the M4, they would need to provide evidence that they have had or received training on a WR4 type machine. This requirement is essential to uphold instructional integrity and ensure compliance with the relevant classification framework. As always, AITT will continue to operate in accordance with the HSE approved Code of Practice L117. To support this, AITT strongly advise that all instructors maintain relevant knowledge, formal training, and practical experience specified to the equipment and operational parameters such as height, capacity, and boom configurations associated with the category that they are now authorised to instruct. So I'm going to hand over now to Peter Williams, who's our technical coordinator, who's going to go through how testing is affected under the new changes on the 19th of January.
Thanks, Jules. In relation to testing standards for the upcoming changes to the truck categories, there's going to be no immediate changes to the training and testing standards for the categories that are affected in this review. So what that means in real life is the existing training testing standards for the machine types affected will stay in place up until the ABA release an update. The AITT will obviously keep the members updated with any changes as and when they happen, so keep your eye out for further updates in the future. So for example, the low-level order pickers are moving to a separate category E0, as we've already said, but they will continue to be trained using the existing A2 standard. The same applies to the pedestrian multi-directional pallet stackers, currently trained and tested under A7, moving to a separate category M4, but they will still be trained and tested using the A7 category up until the ABA releases a new testing standard. The other thing to mention is with some of the categories being streamlined, so mostly the D category, the reach trucks, and the J category, the telescopics, tested lift heights are going to become more important, especially on your training and testing documentation. High level, the definition of high level is not going to change. So high level, as we all should know, is no less than 3 meters. Less than 3 meters should be a restricted certificate. But high level must always be the maximum stacking height normally found in the delegate's working environment using trucks and loads in general use. This rule will apply to either training and testing on a customer's premises, or if you're training in a test center, we should always be training and testing to the maximum lift height available on that particular premises. So, for example, an instructor is trained and tested at a training center on a reach truck at 3 meters. The customer needs training and testing for their operators using reach trucks that lift 12, 13 meters. Then the instructor will have to show evidence that they themselves have been trained and tested or received sufficient training on a truck that can lift 12 or 13 meters. So there's no real change for the instructors with that requirement. Right, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about the individual changes to the ABA's workplace transport groupings. We're going to go through one at a time, give an explanation, and give some context to some of these changes as well. You should be able to see on the screen. We've put a visual on the screen, so which ideally with the explanation will help everybody join everything together. So the first one we're going to talk about is the A2. A2 is rider, pallet, stillage, low-level trucks with a fixed platform. Order pickers separately are becoming E0, which is low-level order picker up to 300 mil. Okay, so the A2, the rider pallet trucks will stay exactly the same. It's just the order pickers that are being changed. Andy, can I ask you to put some context onto the reason why this one's been changed, please?
It was felt after we had a meeting with the ABA that there was already an E category in place for order pickers, and the A2 just sort of naturally was left into the A category. So it was felt that what it needed to be was actually moved into the category with all the other order pickers. The thought was also that if we moved it into the category with the other order pickers, we'd end up having to move what was the E1 and the E2. So the decision was made to give it that category definition of E0. So by making it an E0 and giving it that numerical sort of number after the letter, that it'd stand out quite easily. And then employers would still have the E1 and the E2 so they could see that that was staying in place. So that was the sort of rationale behind changing that over.
Perfect. Thank you, Andy. Jules, just a little reminder for the instructors watching this. What does that actually mean for the instructors? What are the instructors going to have to do to get the new category?
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, so as previously discussed, if they currently hold an A2 certificate and they wanting to transfer that A2 certificate over to the E0, the A2 certificate must show that it was completed on a low-level order picker. So realistically, we just need to have the verification to say that they have been trained on the low-level order picker for them to be able to get the E0 certificate.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So the next trucks we need to talk about is in the B group, the counterbalance lift truck group, and the change for the B group is the B4 category is being removed and merged into the existing B1 category. So the B1 category will now incorporate both seated and stand-on variants of the counterbalance lift truck up to and including 5,000 kilo lift. We're going to do the same again. Andy, can you offer some context for this one as well, please?
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Peter. It was just felt that we had this B4 stand-on counterbalance, which, if a number of you will remember, originally came from the A category, and it was placed in the Bs a number of years ago. And it was just felt that, does there need to be a separate category purely for someone standing on a counterbalance, and could that be integrated within the B1? So we looked at it and we thought that was the most logical thing to do. So remove the B4 and make that as a B1, and that just opened up more opportunities for people to use the B1.
Okay, thanks for that, Andy. Jules, does this lead to any changes for the instructors or for the training testing standards for this particular change?
So in terms of the B4, then converting over to the B1 or now falling in the B1 category, there's no real changes for instructors. But what I would reiterate is what we talked about earlier, and the AITT strongly recommend that the instructor must show experience in operating that machine. So if you're not experienced in operating the B4, our recommendation would be that you complete a conversion course to enable you to gain that experience to go and teach on that particular machine.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So the next category we need to talk about is the D group, the reach and straddle trucks. So currently we have D1 reach and straddle truck up to 8 meters, D2 reach and straddle truck over 8 meters, and D3, which is the stand-on variant of the reach truck. They're all being merged into the new D1 category. So D1 category will cover all of the reach and straddle truck variants. Okay. Be that stand-on or seated, exactly the same format as the counterbalance we just talked about. I think the justification for this one is going to be exactly the same as what we talked about with the counterbalance, but I can again throw it to Andy to add any extra information for this one.
Thanks, Peter. Yeah, you're absolutely correct. If you think about the original sort of categories, reach trucks didn't have any specified heights, and that was something that was brought in by ABA. And what we just felt was, when we looked at these particular types of machines and categorization of machines, they were being used realistically in the same environment, doing the same task. And it was hard to quantify if someone was lifting 8.2 meters, why they needed to do a conversion course for just going up that small height. So what we felt was it was going to be much easier to remove the actual height restrictions and just make it one sort of single category for D1, D2, D3, all to go into that D1.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Andy. Jules, again, we're going to assume that the changes to the reach category, the D category, are pretty much the same as counterbalance, but just throwing it to you for any additional information from the AITT.
Thank you, Peter. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is going to be very similar. Again, going back to making sure that you've got the experience. If you've been taught in a racking system at 3 meters and then you're going into a racking system at 13 meters, there is a very big difference. We need to make sure, and again, we strongly, strongly recommend that you have the experience to be able to teach at this level of height. So again, if you're currently teaching on a D1 only, we would strongly recommend that you go and receive a conversion to enable you to teach above the 8 meters.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Jules. So as you can see on the from the graphic on the screen, the only change to the E category is the one we've already discussed. So E0 low-level order picker is being added to the existing E1, E2 categories. Next group we're going to talk about is the H group. H group is tow tractors and trailers. Current categories are H1 rider, tow tractor and trailer. H2 pedestrian, tow tractor and trailer up to 15,000 kilos. H3 pedestrian, tow tractor and trailer above 15,000 kilos. The change in January will be to remove the H3 category. So now there will just be a simplified group of H1 rider, tow tractor and trailer, and H2 pedestrian, tow tractor and trailer. Liam, is there anything from any changes for instructors and training providers from the AITT side in regards to training and testing for this particular change?
Thank you, Peter. No, there won't be any changes relevant to instructors in this part. Previously, if someone's had H3 on the back of their card, for example, it would be removed and that would then be covered with the H2 category on the back of their card.
Thanks very much, Liam. So the next group we need to talk about is the J group. And the J group, again, is being having the categorization streamlined. So currently we have J3 rough terrain telescopic truck up to 9 meters lift. J3 is rough terrain telescopic truck over 9 meters lift. Those two categories are being streamlined just into the J3. So they're removing the J2 category for that. And again, it's simplification of that particular category. Same goes for the industrial trucks. So we currently have J4, which is an industrial telescopic truck up to 9 meters lift, and a J5 industrial telescopic truck over 9 meters lift. That's been streamlined into J5 rider industrial telescopic truck for exactly the same reason. We'll come get some context for this one in a second. And then the last change in the J category is the rotos, the 360-degree slew truck. So currently J6 is rough terrain telescopic truck 360 slew up to 9 meters. J7 rough terrain telescopic truck 360 slew over 9 meters. This category, the 360 slew trucks are being streamlined into the J7 category. So J7 is rider rough terrain telescopic truck 360 slew. I think we should go to Andy first on this particular one for, again, it's the justification from the ABA for the changes to this particular category.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Okay, again, it's a simplification of categories. That was the main reason it was sort of looked at, especially with something like the industrial trucks, where there wasn't actually an industrial truck above 9 meters that was in production. So you had a category there that were no trucks actually out in the marketplace that could physically be trained on. So that was quite an easy one to simplify. With the rough terrains as well, again, similar to some of the other categories you've seen, when we start looking at lift heights, it's putting that simplification in that, you know, you could have up to 9 meters and then you got something that's just above 9 meters. And why does that need a completely separate category? And exactly the same with the 360 slew machines. Again, it's trying to simplify that category down. But again, you know, when Jules is going to give us a little bit of a talk now, just about the differences and what's physically required on them. So I'll pass you back to Jules on that one.
Thank you, Andy. Absolutely right with the industrial machines, beautifully covered. So thank you for doing that for us. In terms of the rough terrain, obviously there's quite a massive difference from using a machine at, say, 7 meters to some of the machines that now go on to 30 meters. If we then add on the issues that potentially including stabilizers, we really do need to make sure that the instructors have the knowledge, then the skill to be able to operate these machines and train them out. So again, just to reiterate, please make sure as an instructor that we follow the guidance in L117, that we have the skill, experience and knowledge to be able to conduct the training on this machine.
Perfect. Thank you to both of you. The next group we need to talk about is the M group. You should still be able to see the graphic on the screen, and you should be able to see an addition of M4 at the bottom of the screen. M4 is pedestrian multi-directional pallet stacker truck. So a completely new category for a relatively new type of truck on the market. Traditionally, these trucks were trained in the A7 category, which is pedestrian reach trucks, but now they've been moved into their own separate category. A7 will stay exactly the same as it is, so A7 will still remain pedestrian reach truck. Okay. So I'm going to ask Jules to come in and explain any differences for the instructors and training providers for this particular category change. Jules, please.
Lovely, thank you, Peter. Yes, in terms of the new M4, as we explained earlier, you're going to have to provide evidence to show that you have been trained on the type of machine, so like the WR4, to be able to gain that category. In terms of testing, as you explained earlier, Peter, the M4 will still come under the testing standard currently of the A7 until a new standard is released by the ABA.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Jules. Andy, can I ask you for your input, please?
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Jules. So what we've got now is we've got this M4 multi-directional pallet stacker truck. And as Jules said, it was previously the type of machine that the WR4 was. Now, it's very interesting because when we, on the ABA, we do get manufacturers making new machines, and it's looking at what category those machines can actually go into. So rather than just sort of saying when this type of machine came out that you'd have to train it under pure or under manufacturer specifics, it was actually put into the A7 because it was felt the majority of characteristics of the machine did actually match a pedestrian reach truck, with the exception of the multi-directional variant. But now there are a considerable amount of these machines on the market. It was just felt that the time was right to actually create this separate category of a multi-directional pallet stacker truck.
The stop picker. So AITT currently classify as S3, which is a rider vertical stop picker. The ABA have changed the category now to SP1 rider vertical stop picker. I don't think there's too much realistic real world changes that we need to add any information for this, because the AITT were the only one of the accrediting bodies to have this as a separate category on its own. So all that's really happening with this particular machine type is the category code will change. So course durations will stay exactly the same. Test paperwork and testing standards stay exactly the same. It's just the truck classification is the only thing that's changing for this one. Liam, anything to add from the AITT's point of view for this particular change, please?
Thank you, Peter. So no, there's no real changes to this one for AITT. As you've previously mentioned, we already had the category in place with S3. So any instructor who currently has an S3 qualification on the back of their card, this would automatically change to SP1.
Perfect. Thanks very much, Liam. Thank you to Andy and to Jules.
Thank you, Peter, for introducing the category changes that are coming into place by ABA on the 19th of January 2026. Naturally, we understand that instructors are going to have questions here, so I think it would be the right time now for us to kind of give a couple of scenarios that we know we're going to get questions on. So I'll hand over to Jules, and we can go through some common questions we think we will get asked on these.
Thank you, Liam. So some of the common questions are going to be, are the changes going to happen organically, or do I have to physically put the request changes in? So in terms of the E0, so from the A2 to the E0, I understand that I've got to provide a certificate. But Peter, can you explain the process of what's going to happen and the costing involved in that for me, please?
This will be evidenced exactly the same way as you would do normally. So instructors, the majority of AITT instructors will have the QR code on their badge. You can upload your evidences by your badge in the traditional manner. All we'll need to see is the certificate specifically says low level order picker. So you can have an A2 rider pallet truck, or you can have an A2 low level order picker. We will accept that. So to add the E0, it will have to say specifically low level order picker. There won't be any charge from the AITT for this particular change, because we know that this is a bit of a disruption and an additional cost to instructors with these existing qualifications.
That's great. Thank you, Peter. So just to quantify, is it going to be really similar for the M4 moving forward as well? So am I going to have to produce a certificate for, say, a WR4 to get the M4? And again, is AITT going to give that to our instructors free of charge?
Absolutely. For instructors with the existing qualification, upload in the traditional manner using the QR code. The certificate will have to show multi-directional pallet stacker. So the example given is the WR4. And again, there won't be any charge for existing qualifications. No.
Thank you. Peter, in terms of the changes to the Ds and Bs, what do I, as an instructor, how do I get those changes onto my badge? Do I have to put in a request, or is that going to be organically done at AITT's end?
Because the Bs and Ds are being streamlined, there won't be there's no requirement for any changes from the instructors themselves. So everything will be done automatically on the system from the AITT. So no evidence required.
Thank you. So if I scan my badge on the 18th of January, it will show a D2. For example, if I rescan it on the 19th of January, the D2 will be non-existent. It will just show the D1. Is that correct?
That's it. So for all the relevant categories where the groups have been streamlined, the D group, the H group, the J group, you will just see the simplified category code.
Thank you. And again, just to clarify, if I am a D1 instructor and I want to go and teach at 12 meters, I have to do a conversion to show that I have got the experience, knowledge, and skill to be able to deliver that. It's not something I can automatically do.
The AITT are always going to follow the advice published in the L117, which is instructors should have the required skills, knowledge, and practical experience to be able to train on specific equipment. So if there is a drastic difference between the machine types you are familiar with and the machine types you are asked to train on, it's everybody's responsibility to make sure that they have the required skills and knowledge to be able to deliver that training properly and safely.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that clarification, Peter. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so I've got a question. I think maybe quite beneficial from training providers. So Liam, if I can ask you the question on behalf of some of the training providers, if a customer has sat a course, let's say on an A2 low-level order picker, can they have a certificate reissued as an E0 after the 19th of January?
Thank you, Andy. Yeah, I think that's a brilliant question and something we are going to get asked quite often. So no, the advice from AITT would be that you wouldn't need to reissue the certificate for that operator training, because if the operator has been trained prior to the date, that was the category that was in place at that time. So if it was after the date, then the new category has come into place.
Okay, Liam, thanks for that. So just to clarify then, if a customer was to do an A2 low-level order picking truck on the 18th of January, they will be issued with a certificate that says A2, not E0. But if they did the same course, let's say on the 20th of January, they would be issued with a certificate that says E0. So we're not effectively trying to change history. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's correct, Andy. I think it's important that we obviously can't alter that. The category didn't exist before this date. They all come live together on the 19th of January. So anything that's happened previously would stay as that previous category, and anything that takes place after the date would have the new category on.
Okay, that's brilliant because obviously it could cause confusion otherwise if someone asked for a certificate to be reissued, let's say from 2023, stating a SP1, for instance, that doesn't exist. So no, thank you for clarifying that. It's really useful.
Can I ask, will the AITT be providing updated training materials and test sheets to align with these changes in January?
Thank you, Peter. Yes, great question. We will be releasing new test sheets, but those will not be released until the 19th of January. Now, I know a lot of our instructors will be thinking, well, we'd actually quite like to have them early so that we can review everything. But please remember, reiterating to what Peter spoke about earlier, there is no changes to testing standards currently. The only changes will be to the categorization heading on the test paper. Therefore, the test paper will then become available on the 19th of January. However, Andy, as you are here on behalf of the or part of the ABA, could you explain why the ABA looked at the 19th of January as the go live date, please?
Yes, certainly, Jules. It's a weird one because normally we'd introduce a new standard or a new testing criteria or anything like that on the first of a month. However, being the 1st of January and being New Year's Day, it was thought that this is going to be really unfair on the instructors and trading providers because 1st of January, everything becomes live. And if people want to ring up the association, they need advice on testing standards, criteria, or something like that. Where do they get that information if a lot of the places are closed, especially on the back end of the Christmas and New Year holiday? So it was decided that if we move that forward then to the 19th of January, by having that on the 19th of January, that was going to be more beneficial for everybody.
Lovely. Thank you, Andy. Again, just going forward, let's quick question to Liam. So, in terms of everything going live on the 19th, have you got a support structuring for that week and moving forward so that if I have a question or the training providers have a question, they can come and get the support on that sort of first initial week?
Yeah, thanks, Jules. I think that's a really important question because we need to make sure that we are there to provide support to our members. And yeah, we will make sure that our technical team, which obviously is both yourself and Peter, are available via email and phone in the normal channels we follow to answer any questions that members have got, really. So yeah, we will ensure that we've got time free with that to support.
Lovely. Thank you.
As well of the support, Jules, I think it's important that we do collate the questions we get because I understand that we're going to get a lot of questions in regards to these changes that ABA have made. So we will collate them together and maybe potentially start up a frequently asked questions sheet on our members area, for example, so people can check that first to see if there is commonly asked questions. We can put that on, and we could also put that on our social media channels as well. So it's worth people keep following those to keep up to date with these changes.
Fantastic. So just to reiterate, if anybody wants to ask any questions, is it the technical email that they're going to send it to?
Yeah, I think that would be the best place, Jules. So if we can ask for any questions about this to be sent directly to technical@aitt.co.uk, we can ensure that the correct member of staff is replying to you. Obviously, if you would prefer to phone as well, that is perfectly fine. It's just that we understand that people are going to ask in different ways. So yeah, just feel free to reach out to the technical team for any further support.
Lovely. Thank you, Liam.
So Liam, just one other point on the back of that then. If, let's say, a company has booked a course prior to the 19th of January, let's say something like a D2 course, reach truck course, 5-day novice course, and the testing date is after the 19th of January. I take it the course will be booked as a D2, but because they're tested after the 19th of January, they'll be tested as a D1, and the certificate will then indicate the new category because it's after the 19th of January. Is that correct?
Yeah, that would be correct, Andy. So we're going to be basing this on the test date for when the course has taken place, really. So potentially that course will have started as a D2, but as we know, come the 19th, the D2 category won't exist. So that candidate would need to be tested as a D1, and that was what would be reflected in the certificate that's issued.
Thing I'm also taking from that is training providers need to be aware that when they are taking the bookings, they could be taking a booking as one category, and then to explain to their customers after the testing and issue a certification. If it is after the 19th of January, the customer could be getting a certificate that is showing a different category on it than what they originally booked.
Yeah, exactly, Andy. And to turn that into a different way of thinking of this as well, is come that date, our Acorns registration scheme will not allow people to register that as a D2, so D2 will be removed. So it's important to note that from that date, you will not see S3 for what's currently there. It will be changed to SP1, and new categories will be added, such as M4, as we've previously discussed. So the Acorn system will reflect these changes as well, and they come the go live date, it will only show the dates. The categories for the new update ABA have brought in.
So that's brilliant. So there's almost like a double fail safe then, isn't there? So if it's missed by the training provider, it's definitely going to be picked up by AITT when they try to book it through the Acorn system, or register it through the Acorn system.
Yeah, correct, Andy.
Okay, Jules, I've just got another sort of question for you then. Do you think it's a good thing for training providers to actually start having communication with their customers? Because there may be some level of misunderstanding from the customers if it isn't fully understood about the category changes. Because if I was a customer and I trained someone in, let's say, November on a truck, and then I'd train someone towards the end of January, after the 19th of January on a truck, I could have two certificates that were both done on the same machine, in the same area, same site, same racking, but now they're going to have two different categories. So one might say, for instance, a D2, and the other might say a D1.
Absolutely. Great question. It's massively important that our providers speak to their customers, because, as you said, there's going to be real confusion from our customers otherwise. As you rightly said there, if I've got a D1 and a D2, but it's the same machine, well, there's got to be an error. So it's really important that we do educate, or our providers educate our customers, so that they fully understand that it's just literally a categorization change. Nothing changes with their training. Nothing changes with the machine. The only thing that changes in this respect is from a D2 to a D1. So thank you for that.
So just one final question for me, Jules, then. And I'm thinking outside of sort of training providers, and I'm thinking more about an operator on a site. So let's say if I worked in a distribution center and I've got a certificate for a D1 reach truck, but obviously now a D1 reach truck can take it a lot higher than I would have been certified for. Does that mean now as an operator I can work at any heights, or am I still restricted by the certification that I possess? What sort of AITT's advice on that?
Thank you, Andy. So if we looked at when you obtained that D1, the maximum height was up to 8 meters. So that's what you gained your qualification under. If you then needed to or wanted to go above that 8 meters, you're going now to have to do the new D1 categorization to enable you to gain the experience and knowledge and to be able to do that. In terms of our providers, you're going to get quite a lot of questions from customers. Please remember that as AITT, we're here and able to support you. As we spoke earlier, we do have a technical email, technical@aitt.co.uk. So you can contact us that way, or you can ring us directly. We will endeavour to get back to you on the same day. to support any questions moving forward.
Okay, thanks, Jules.
So that brings an end to our webinar. So thank you to Jules, Peter and Andy for taking the time to join me today. And thank you to you for watching this session as well. We've covered a significant amount of information, and I hope the overview has given you a clear understanding of the up-and-coming changes to the ABA workplace transport groupings. As we move forward towards January 2026, it is important that operators, employers, and training providers feel confident about these updates, which will influence training in the workplace. The revisions explored today, whether new categories or updated groupings, reflect the evolving nature of our industry. By staying informed and prepared early, we can ensure a smooth and effective transition. On behalf of AITT, thank you again for your commitment to maintaining high standards in workplace transport training. If you have any questions or need any further clarification, please feel free to email us at technical@aitt.co.uk. Thank you for watching.